The chain scraped again. Lina jerked awake, breath tearing out of her chest as the sound echoed through the concrete room. Cold seeped into her bones from the floor beneath her bare feet. The bulb above her flickered once, twice, then steadied, casting a dull yellow halo that made the shadows feel alive. She pulled against the cuffs instinctively. Metal bit into her wrists. The chain held. Someone was walking above her. Not close. Not rushing. Measured steps. Heavy. If you're already feeling the tension, follow and subscribe now. Stories like this don't slow down. They only get darker. Her heart slammed harder. She pressed her back to the wall, knees drawn tight, as the footsteps stopped directly overhead. Dust shook loose from the ceiling. Voices murmured. Men. Laughing. Unconcerned. "She's still breathing," one of them said casually. "That's good." A door opened somewhere. The smell of oil and rust thickened. Lina swallowed. Her mouth tasted like blood. She had stopped screaming 2 days ago. Not because she had given up, but because she had learned something worse. Before this goes any further, tell me in the comments where you're listening from right now. Alone, late at night, or with headphones on. I want to know. No one down here listened. Above ground, Istanbul roared. Cars. Lives. Light. Down here, time didn't move. It waited. The door at the far end of the basement creaked open. Light cut through the darkness. She squeezed her eyes shut. "Stand her up," a man said. Hands grabbed her arms. She winced as feeling rushed back painfully. They yanked her upright, chains rattling, her body swaying weakly between them. "Look at her," another voice scoffed. "All this trouble for a translator." Lina forced her eyes open. 3 men. Expensive jackets. Calm faces. One of them crouched in front of her, studying her like inventory. "You know why you're still here," he said. "Say it." She shook her head. His hand came fast. Sharp. Controlled. Her vision burst white. "Say it." "My debt," she whispered. He smiled. "Good. You remember." The door slammed again. Darkness swallowed them. Footsteps retreated. Silence returned. Lina sagged against the wall, tears sliding silently down her cheeks, not from pain, but from the certainty settling deep in her chest. No one was coming. Across the city, Armin Kaya stepped out of a black sedan as rain misted the pavement. The building in front of him looked abandoned. No sign, no windows lit, no reason for a man like him to be there. Which was exactly why he was. He adjusted his coat, eyes scanning the street. 2 cars idled nearby. Engines running. Wrong. He didn't turn around. "Call it off," he said calmly into his phone. A pause. Then, confirmed, came the reply. Armin walked toward the entrance anyway. Inside, the air smelled wrong. Damp. Old money. Old crimes. A man approached him halfway down the corridor. Nervous smile stretched too tight. "You're early." "I don't like being late," Armin replied. They shook hands. The man's palm was sweating. "Your message said you had information," Armin continued. "You said it was urgent." The man nodded. "About a girl." Armin stopped walking. The man swallowed. We may have made a mistake." That word landed heavier than a threat. "Show me," Armin said. They descended. 1 level. Then another. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. At the bottom, the guard hesitated. "She's not exactly in good condition." Armin didn't slow down. The door opened. The smell hit first. Then the sound. Chain. Breathing. Armin stepped into the room and froze. A woman sat chained to the wall. Bruised. Barefoot. Eyes too alert for someone who'd been down there long. She looked up. Their eyes met. Something in her expression shifted. Not hope. Not relief. Recognition. "You," she whispered. The word barely carried. Armin felt something tighten in his chest. He knew her. Not well. Not personally. But he knew exactly who she was. and exactly why she should not be there. "Who did this?" he asked quietly. The guard laughed nervously. "Sir, it's just business." Armin turned his head slightly. That was all. The guard stopped breathing. Armin looked back at her, voice low, controlled, dangerous. "How long?" he asked. "Has she been here?" Lina tried to speak. The chain rattled as her body shook. 2 days, someone answered. Armin closed his eyes once. When he opened them, the room felt colder. "Get her unchained," he said. The men hesitated. Armin's gaze hardened. "I didn't ask twice." Keys moved. Metal clicked. As the cuffs fell away, Lina collapsed forward. Armin caught her before she hit the ground. She flinched instinctively. "It's okay," he said, not softly, but firmly. "I've got you." Her fingers gripped his sleeve like a lifeline. And somewhere above them, doors began to close. Because the men who put her there had just made a mistake they would never outrun. If this story already has you holding your breath, subscribe now. Because what happens next doesn't slow down, it gets worse. Armin didn't flinch when the alarm started. Red lights snapped on overhead, pulsing against concrete walls as steel doors slammed shut in the distance. The sound wasn't chaos, it was control breaking. Lina felt it immediately. Her body tightened in his arms, breath hitching as shouting echoed closer. Boots hit the floor. Too many. Too fast. "Easy," Armin said, voice low. "Stay with me." He turned, already moving before the men rounded the corner. A gate crashed down ahead of them, blocking the main passage. Armed figures poured out from side corridors, weapons raised, eyes sharp with recognition. "Put her down," a voice ordered. Armin stopped. The man stepped forward into the light. Older. Come. His confidence didn't come from muscle, it came from ownership. "You don't belong here," the man said. "And neither does she." Armin adjusted his grip on Lina, unbothered by the guns trained on him. "She leaves," he said. "Now." A laugh rippled through the room. "You don't make demands underground," the man replied. "You negotiate." Armin's eyes didn't move. "You chained her. So. That means you already lost." The smile on the man's face faded, just a fraction. "You think you scare me?" "No," Armin said quietly. "I think you recognize me." Silence fell. One of the gunmen shifted. Another lowered his weapon slightly. The leader's jaw tightened. "You have 60 seconds, Armin continued, checking his watch, "to open every gate and forget this woman ever existed. And if we don't," Armin met his eyes, "then everything you own becomes very visible. Accounts, routes, names, families." The word families landed. The man studied him, then glanced around, counting loyalty. "Open the gates," he said. Metal screamed upward. Armin didn't look back as he walked through. Rain slapped Lina's face as they emerged onto the street. Cold air tore into her lungs, sharp and overwhelming after days underground. She gasped, body trembling, the city lights blurring above her. Armin carried her to the car and placed her inside, wrapping his coat around her shoulders. "Stay awake," he said. "Don't close your eyes." The engine roared to life. As they pulled away, Lina twisted in her seat. "They won't stop," she whispered. "I know," Armin replied. That wasn't reassurance. That was a warning. The apartment lights flicked on automatically. Armin locked the door behind them. Then the next one. Then the next. Too many locks. Lina noticed. He set her on the couch, handed her water, then crouched in front of her, eyes level. "Look at me," he said. She did. "If anyone ever tells you to stay quiet again," he said, "you call me. No matter the hour." Her throat tightened. "Why?" Armin paused. "Because they didn't take you by accident." That landed harder than any slap. "What do you mean?" "They were waiting," he said. "You ran. Someone pointed them to you." Her pulse spiked. "No," she whispered. "I didn't tell anyone." "You didn't have to." Silence stretched. Then Lina spoke, voice shaking. I borrowed money. For my brother. I thought if I worked fast enough. They never let you work it off, Armin said. They let you sink. Her hands curled into the blanket. I tried to disappear. And they dragged you back, he said. She nodded. A faint buzz cut through the room. Armin's phone. One message. They know where you are. His jaw tightened. He turned to Lina. Bedroom. Lock the door. What's happening? Now. She stood, panic clawing up her spine. As she moved down the hallway, she heard the knock. Polite. Controlled. The kind of knock that didn't ask permission. Armin opened the door halfway. Two men stood there, suits immaculate, faces blank. Mr. Kaya, one said. We need a word. Not here. We disagree. Armin didn't step aside. Behind him, Lina froze in the hallway, heart pounding. The second man smiled faintly. You took something that isn't yours. Armin leaned closer. You should leave. We can't. A pause. Then the man added softly, not without her. In the bedroom, Lina locked the door and backed away. Her chest rose and fell too fast. She scanned the room, window, lamp, anything. Voices rose outside. Then dropped. Footsteps approached. Her breath caught. The handle turned. The lock clicked. The door opened. But it wasn't Armin. It was the man from the basement. The one who smiled when she screamed. Did you miss us? He asked gently. If you're still here right now, don't leave. Subscribe and follow immediately. This story isn't slowing down, and what happens next forces a choice that changes everything. The man from the basement stepped fully into the bedroom like he belonged there. His suit was too clean for a place like that. His smile was too calm for what he'd done. And his eyes carried the kind of patience that didn't need to rush, because it always won in the end. Lina backed up until her calves hit the bed frame. You shouldn't be here, she managed. He shut the door behind him with a soft click. Not a slam. Not a threat. A decision. Oh, Lina, he said, voice almost gentle. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. She glanced at the lock. He followed her eyes and smiled wider. Locks are for people who still believe in permission. Outside the door, she heard Armin's voice. Low, controlled. Then another man's voice. Come. Smiling. The kind that didn't argue because it didn't need to. The basement man stepped closer, hands relaxed at his sides. You know what you did wrong? Lina swallowed. Borrowed money. No, he tilted his head. You believed the debt was about money. Her fingers curled into the blanket, knuckles whitening. You're not a person to them, he continued, as if explaining a simple fact. You're a lesson. And lessons have to be seen. Quick question for you watching right now. If protecting someone you love meant destroying your own life, would you still do it? Be honest in the comments. Lina's throat tightened. Armin will kill you. That finally earned a laugh. Quiet. Genuine. Kill me, he repeated. He's not that kind of man. He leaned in slightly, eyes glinting. Yet. A sharp sound from the hallway. Something heavy hitting the wall. A stifled grunt. Lina flinched. Listen, the man murmured. That's the sound of your protection being negotiated. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a phone, then held it up so she could see the screen. A live video feed. Armin. In the living room. Standing still. But not because he wanted to. A man in a suit stood behind him with one hand resting lightly on Armin's shoulder, as if they were friends. Another man held something small and black, too close to Armin's ribs. Not pressed in. Not dramatic. Just near enough to make the point. Armin's expression didn't change. But Lina saw it in his eyes. He was calculating. And for the first time since she'd met him, calculation looked like strain. The basement man lowered the phone. You see, he whispered. No hero speeches. No sudden miracles. Just terms. Lina's voice broke. What do you want? The man's smile faded into something colder. I want you to understand what you are, he said. And I want him to understand what he is. He stepped closer until Lina could smell his cologne. Expensive, clean, wrong. You're going to walk out that door, he said. You're going to sit down like a good girl, and you're going to tell Armin Kaya something very important. Lina shook her head. No. His eyes sharpened, but his tone stayed soft. You will. She forced herself to stand taller, even as her legs trembled. I'm not going back. The man studied her for a moment, like he was deciding how much effort she deserved. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, he said pleasantly. Then we do it the other way. He lifted his hand, snapped his fingers once. And the bedroom window, quiet seconds ago, lit up with movement outside. Lina's stomach dropped. A silhouette. Then another. Faces behind glass. Watching. Waiting. Your neighbors, the man said with a faint smile. People love drama. They love mysteries. They love to feel safe because someone else is suffering. He looked back at her. Now imagine what happens when they realize you were rescued by a man like Armin Kaya. Lina's pulse thudded hard. Stop. He leaned in again. No. Because this is the real debt. Not money. Not time. Control. A beat. You tell him what I say, the man whispered. Or your story becomes public in the ugliest way possible. Lina's nails dug into her palms. What do you want me to say? The man smiled. You're going to tell him, he said, that he can buy you. Lina stared at him, disgust rising like heat. He watched it calmly. You're going to tell him you're leaving, he continued, because you don't want protection. You want freedom. And if he tries to stop you, he paused, savoring it. You'll scream. Lina's mouth went dry. That's the part people will remember, he said softly. Not the truth. Not the context. Just the scream. He stepped back and opened the bedroom door. Come, he said. Let's ruin him properly. In the living room, Armin stood with his hands at his sides, shoulders relaxed, posture unreadable. Two men faced him. The third hovered near the door, watching the hallway like he was waiting for a package. Armin spoke first. This is a private residence. The man in front smiled. Not tonight. Armin's gaze didn't flicker. Where is she? Another smile. Safe. Armin's jaw tightened slightly. That word means something different to you. The man leaned forward, lowering his voice. Let's make this simple. You took property. You return it. Armin's eyes sharpened. She's not property. The man shrugged. Then don't treat her like leverage. A pause. Armin's phone buzzed on the coffee table. The screen lit up. A message. You can't protect her without exposing yourself. Armin stared at it, and for the first time his calm looked expensive. Like it cost him something every second to maintain it. Then the bedroom door opened. Lina stepped out. Her face was pale, eyes wide, body tense like a trapped animal trying to pretend it wasn't trapped. Armin's gaze met hers. Something shifted in his eyes. Immediate, sharp focus. Lina, he said softly. Come here. She hesitated. The basement man stood just behind her, one hand resting lightly against the doorframe. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. Lina swallowed hard. Then she spoke, exactly the way a frightened person speaks when they're trying not to shake. I'm leaving, she said. Armin didn't move. What? I said I'm leaving, Lina repeated, voice tighter now. I don't want this. I don't want you involved. One of the suited men smiled faintly, like a clock had just ticked right on time. Armin took a slow step forward. Who told you to say that? Lina's eyes flicked, just once, toward the basement man. Armin saw it. His gaze hardened. Lina, he said, voice lower. Look at me. She did. For a second she almost broke. Armin's tone stayed steady. Are you safe right now? Lina's throat moved. She didn't answer. The silence was the answer. Armin breathed in slowly. Then he turned his head toward the men. "Get out," he said. One of them chuckled. "You don't get to." Armin cut him off. "Leave," he repeated. "Before I stop asking politely." The man smiled wider. "And do what? Call the police? Tell them you walked into a debt facility in the industrial zone and carried out a chained woman like you were above consequences." That hit the air like smoke. Armin didn't blink. "Try me." The basement man finally stepped forward, voice calm. "You're not listening," he said. "This isn't about force. It's about image." He gestured lightly toward the windows. Armin's eyes flicked to the glass. Curtains. But behind them, movement. Shadows. People. Neighbors. Phones. Watching. "Smile," the basement man murmured. "They're recording." Armin's face didn't change. But Lina saw it. The single crack. A slow realization. They didn't just follow him home. They set him up. If you're still watching right now, subscribe and follow immediately. Because this is the point where protection turns into war, and the next chapter is ruthless. Armin stepped closer to Lina, careful, controlled, like he was approaching an animal that had been trained to fear kindness. "I'm not your enemy," he said. Lina's eyes watered, but she forced her voice steady. "Then let me go." Armin's gaze sharpened. "That's not you talking." Lina's breath hitched. Armin turned slightly, angling his body so he blocked her from the men. Subtle, instinctive protection. The suited man laughed quietly. "See. Possession. That's the story we'll sell." Armin's head tilted. "Sell to who?" The man raised his phone. "To everyone." He tapped the screen once. Outside, a shout rose. Neighbors murmuring louder, energy building. Curiosity turning hungry. Armin looked back at Lina. "You're doing this because you think it saves you," he said softly. Lina's mouth trembled. "He said he'll destroy you." Armin's eyes went cold. "He already planned to," Armin replied. "You're just the delivery." The basement man smiled. "Smart." Armin turned his full attention to him now. The air in the room changed. "You want to ruin me," Armin said. "I want to remind you," the man corrected, "that men like you don't get to play hero without paying a price." Armin nodded once, slow. "Okay," he said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his own phone. Everyone watched. Armin held the phone up, screen facing them. A single recording. A video. From the basement. The syndicate leader. The chains. The room. A clear view of faces. The suited man's smile twitched. The basement man's eyes narrowed. Armin's voice stayed calm. "You're right. This is about image." He tapped his screen. A message draft opened. Pre-addressed. Not to the police. Not to courts. To someone else. Someone with reach. Influence. The kind of person who doesn't ask questions first. Lina stared. "Armin, what are you doing?" Armin didn't look at her. He looked at the basement man. "I'm choosing," he said quietly. The basement man's smile returned, but it was thinner now. "Choosing what?" Armin's thumb hovered over send. "War," Armin said. And just as his thumb began to press, the living room lights cut out. Not a blackout. Not a power failure. A deliberate kill. Darkness swallowed the apartment. Lina's breath caught. A voice whispered close to her ear. Not Armin's. "Good girl," the basement man murmured. "Now scream. Subscribe right now. Because this is the final chapter, and it's the part where the truth doesn't save anyone. It only chooses who bleeds reputation, power, and peace." The emergency lights didn't come back all at once. They blinked in one, then another, painting the apartment in a dim red glow that made every face look guilty. Lina's scream didn't echo. It got swallowed. Phones outside the windows lit up like a wall of tiny moons. The neighbors weren't just watching anymore. They were recording with the devotion of people who finally had a story that wasn't theirs. Armin moved in front of Lina instantly. Not dramatic. Not heroic. Instinct. His palm hovered near her elbow, not gripping, not claiming, just anchoring. "Breathe," he said quietly. "Stay behind me." The basement man's voice came from the side, soft as a whisper. "That's it. Give them the picture. Strong man. Weak girl. Private home. Public fear." One of the suited men lifted his phone higher. "Look into the camera, Mr. Kaya." Armin didn't. He stared at the basement man like he was seeing the blueprint behind the face. "You didn't come here for her," Armin said. The basement man smiled. "Of course I did." "No," Armin replied calmly. "You came here for me." A small pause. The basement man's smile sharpened. "Good. You're not slow." Lina's chest rose and fell too fast. "Armin." "Not a word," Armin murmured without looking back. "Not until I say." The suited man stepped closer. "We can end this cleanly." Armin's eyes flicked to him. "Cleanly for who?" The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. "For the cameras." The basement man took one step forward, slow, careful, like he wanted to be seen moving in a calm way. "You're going to make a choice," he told Armin. "And either way, you lose something you can't replace." Armin's voice stayed even. "Explain." The basement man gestured toward Lina. "Option 1. You let her walk out with us, quietly. You keep your name." Lina stiffened. "Option 2, the man continued. You keep her. You fight. She screams again. The story becomes, powerful man traps terrified woman. That's all they'll need." Outside, a neighbor shouted, "Is she okay?" Like it was a performance and they had paid to attend. Armin's jaw tightened. Lina's eyes filled, but she forced herself to speak. Don't trade me." Armin didn't answer her. Not because he didn't care, because answering her in front of them would be the first crack they could widen. Instead, Armin turned his head slightly. "Who's live?" he asked. The suited man blinked. "Excuse me," Armin repeated, louder, calm and clear so the windows could hear him. "Who is streaming this right now?" Silence. That was the first time the suited men hesitated. Armin nodded once. "Good." He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Lina's stomach dropped. She thought he was about to play their game. But Armin didn't point the camera at Lina. He pointed it at them. The suited man scoffed. "You think recording us helps you?" Armin tapped the screen. A video opened. Lina saw it immediately. The basement. The chains. The voices. The orders. The laughter that called her breathing good. The footage was short, sharp, unmistakable. Outside the windows, the crowd noise changed. A ripple. A gasp. That specific sound people make when the story shifts and they realize they picked the wrong villain. The basement man's smile didn't vanish, but it thinned. "Interesting," he said softly. Armin's gaze was ice. "I agree." He turned his phone slightly, showing the suited men. Then he spoke to the room, to the windows, to the phones. "I didn't break into anything," Armin said calmly. "I followed a tip. I found a woman chained underground. I recorded what I saw. And I called people who don't ignore proof." The suited man's face tightened. "That was a mistake." Armin nodded. "So was bringing your cameras." If you're watching and you want the real ending, subscribe now. Because the next 60 seconds are where everything turns. The basement man clapped once, slow, quiet, mocking. "Nice," he said. "You almost sound righteous." Armin didn't react. The basement man's eyes drifted to Lina. "But she's still shaking. Which means you still don't control what happens next." He lifted his own phone. One tap. A faint sound came from Lina's pocket. A buzz. Lina froze. She hadn't even remembered her phone existed. Armin's eyes snapped to her. Lina's fingers trembled as she reached into her pocket and pulled it out. The screen lit up. A video file. Already queued. A draft message. To multiple contacts. The basement man's voice stayed gentle. "That's your story. Pre-written. Pre-addressed. Pre-ready. Lina stared at the screen, horrified. I didn't. I know you didn't, the man said. That's why it works. Armin's voice sharpened slightly. What did you put in it? The basement man shrugged. A few clips. The scream. Your silhouette. His hand near you. The red light. The darkness. A line of text that says, help. He won't let me leave. Lina's throat closed. Press send, the basement man told Lina softly, and you'll be believed. Lina shook her head hard. No. His eyes hardened a fraction. Then you'll be punished. Quietly. Armin stepped forward, voice low. Don't speak to her. The basement man smiled. She's the key. You're the door. The suited man moved closer to Lina, palm open like he was offering safety. Come with us, he said. We'll take you away from him. You can go home. No more chains. Lina's breath hitched. For a split second, the offer sounded like air to a drowning person. Armin saw it in her eyes. He didn't blame her. He just spoke carefully, like someone defusing a trap. They're not offering freedom, Armin said, watching the suited man. They're offering silence. The basement man leaned in. Say it again. Say it like a possessive man would. Armin's gaze sharpened. That's what you want. A line for your audience. Outside, a woman shouted. Let her go. The suited man tilted his head toward the windows as if the crowd was his jury. They've already decided. Lina's fingers hovered over her screen. Armin's chest tightened, but his voice stayed calm. Lina, he said softly. Look at me. She did. Eyes wet, terrified, furious at her own fear. Armin's tone didn't plead. It anchored. You have two choices, he said. Not the ones they gave you. Yours. Lina swallowed. What are they? Choice 1, Armin said. You press send. You survive tonight. But they own you forever. Because you'll spend the rest of your life proving you're not a liar. Lina's breath trembled. Choice 2, he continued. You don't press send. You take the risk with me. And I swear to you, no matter what they do to my name, I will not hand you back. The suited man laughed under his breath. Listen to him. The basement man's smile returned. Beautiful. Now she chooses, and you still lose. Lina's thumb hovered. Then she lowered the phone. Slowly. Deliberately. No, she whispered. The basement man's face didn't change. But something in the air did. Because the moment she refused, he no longer needed performance. He needed punishment. He snapped his fingers once. The apartment door unlocked itself with a soft click. Lina felt her blood run cold. Armin didn't turn around. He already knew what that sound meant. Footsteps entered. Not loud. Not rushed. Familiar. The syndicate leader from the basement stepped into the red light like he'd been invited. He looked at Armin. Then at Lina. Then he smiled. You brought trouble into your home, he said mildly. Armin's voice was quiet. You're here because you're afraid. The leader chuckled. No. I'm here because you're expensive. He gestured toward the windows. And because you think those people will protect you. Outside, the crowd noise swelled. Someone called out, Police! But no sirens came close. Not yet. The leader's eyes narrowed slightly. You have influence. We respect that. Armin didn't blink. Then leave. The leader shook his head. We can't. He turned to Lina. Not without the debt being paid. Lina's voice broke. I didn't even borrow from you. The leader's smile was patient. Debt travels. Like bloodlines. Armin stepped forward until he was within a meter of the leader. His tone stayed controlled. You touched her, Armin said. That was your mistake. The leader studied him. And you touched our business, he replied. That was yours. Then he lifted his hand slightly. Not a weapon, not a dramatic gesture, just enough to signal that the room belonged to him. The suited men moved at the same time. One stepped toward Lina. Armin moved faster than they expected. He didn't throw wild punches. He intercepted. He shoved Lina behind him and kicked the coffee table forward with his foot. Hard. It slammed into a shin. A man cursed and stumbled. Phones outside captured the motion. The crowd erupted. "Stop!" someone yelled. But the leader only smiled wider. "See," he said softly. "Now you look guilty." Armin's eyes went colder than the red light. "I don't care what they think." The leader's smile flickered. That was the first sign of real calculation. Because that sentence was the one thing their setup didn't like. A man who stopped caring about how he's perceived is hard to control. Armin reached into his pocket again. The leader's eyes narrowed. "Don't." Armin pulled out his phone, held it up, and pressed one button. A loud tone filled the apartment. An outgoing call on speaker. A voice answered immediately. Female. Crisp. Alert. "Armin." The leader stiffened. Armin didn't take his eyes off the leader. "Put it live." A pause. Then, "Done." Armin raised his voice slightly so the windows and the room could hear him. "My name is Armin Kaya," he said. "If anything happens to this woman tonight, you'll know exactly who did it. I have video. I have names. And I have backups." Outside, the crowd noise turned sharp. Fear replacing curiosity. The leader's jaw tightened. The basement man's smile cracked for real this time. Because now the story wasn't theirs. It was documented. Armin looked at the leader. "You wanted my image?" He nodded once. "Take it," he said. "But you don't get her." Silence. Then sirens finally rose in the distance. Closer now. Real. The leader's eyes flicked to the windows, to the crowd, to the phones. The basement man leaned in, whispering something to him. Fast. Urgent. The leader's lips pressed into a thin line. Then he stepped back. "Tonight," he said to Armin, voice quiet and venomous, "you win a scene." He turned toward Lina. "But you don't win the war." And just like that, they moved, out the door, down the hall, into the building's stairwell, vanishing before uniforms could put hands on them. The crowd outside screamed questions into the glass. Armin didn't answer any of them. He locked the door. Twice. Then he turned and looked at Lina. Lina's knees gave out. She sat on the floor, hugging her own arms like she was holding herself together by force. Armin crouched beside her. "You did the hardest thing," he said softly. Lina stared at her phone. "They were going to ruin you." Armin's eyes didn't soften. "They still might." She looked up sharply. "Then why did you?" Armin paused. Then he told the truth. "Because if I let them take you," he said quietly, "I wouldn't be able to live with myself." Lina's breath shook. "And if they destroy you?" Armin's jaw tightened. "Then they destroy me. A beat. But they won't own me while they do it." If you're still here, subscribe. Because this next part is the real price. What happens after the sirens, when the world starts judging? By morning, the city had opinions. Not facts. Opinions. A short clip circulated first. Lina screaming in red light. Armin stepping in front of her. A table shoved. A man stumbling. People chose what they wanted to see. Some said he saved her. Some said he trapped her. Some said she was lying. Some said she was paid. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise, the syndicate began moving quietly, trying to erase the basement, erase the chain room, erase the proof. Armin sat in a boardroom with 12 faces across from him. Cold, expensive, political. A woman slid a tablet toward him. "Your name is trending," she said. "Not in the way we pay for." A man leaned forward. "Are we exposed?" Armin's eyes didn't move from the screen. "Yes." Another voice. "Do we cut you loose?" Armin looked up finally. "If you cut me loose," he said calmly, "you lose the only person who can keep this from swallowing the whole company." Silence. They didn't like his confidence. But they feared his absence. A man spoke quietly. "What did you do, Armin?" Armin answered in one sentence. I refuse to return a woman to people who chained her. The room went still. Then someone said the quiet part out loud. Was she worth it? Armin didn't flinch. Yes, he said. Not romantically. Not dramatically. Like a verdict. That night, Lina stood by the window in Armin's apartment, watching the city lights blink like distant warnings. They'll come back, she said. Armin stood behind her, not touching her, giving her space like freedom had to be learned again. Maybe, he replied. Lina turned to him. You lost things for me. Armin's eyes held something tired now. I lost illusions, he said. Not everything. She swallowed. And if they come back? Armin's voice dropped. Then they'll find we're not running anymore. Lina stared at him for a long moment. Then she asked the question that mattered most. Why did you really do it? Armin didn't answer instantly. Because the answer was not clean. Finally, he said, because I've watched people disappear my whole life. And I told myself it wasn't my problem. He looked at her. Tonight it was. Lina's eyes filled again, but she didn't cry. She nodded once. Acceptance. Not love. Not a fairy tale. Just two people standing in the aftermath of a decision that had teeth. If you made it to the end, subscribe, and answer this for me in the comments. Was Armin right to choose war for her, or did he cross a line that no one should cross? And beneath the city, the basement doors would be cleaned, repainted, renamed. But Lina would never forget the sound of the chain scraping, or the moment she chose not to press send. Because sometimes the bravest thing isn't escaping. Sometimes it's refusing to become their story.